Hi there, I'm Greg Watson, coming to you with the news headlines of the last week in real estate. I'm coming today from our YouTube page, so find your way to the Watson Real Estate Limited page and please subscribe, and in return you'll get loads and loads of fantastic videos and helpful blogs for real estate and for renting properties. So let's go into the headlines. The one that's probably most sensational in terms of a headline, look at this. One modest two-bedroom flat in Wellington and thousands of eager renters. Now I'm just going to move myself out the way a little. There we go. They give the example of how hot the Wellington rental market is, or how difficult it is if you're a tenant, and that's that just this two-bedroom property here behind Wellington Hospital has had thousands of views online in a week and hundreds of inquiries online. And it goes on to have an article about how property managers are getting inundated with inquiries to the point where it's becoming very difficult to be able to do all of the background checks. Tough times in Wellington there with regards trying to find rental property. Now last year, this flat went for $520 a week. This year, $560 seems pretty typical in terms of where things are moving. It's not just Wellington, it's actually all over the place, and we are experiencing this in the Manawatu as well, high demand. And this article here is actually about Marlborough, and Marlborough is another area where record highs are being achieved for rents, more expensive than Christchurch, for example, and they've increased by 12.7% in that area. So that's a busy place too. So what are investors doing? Around the Wellington area, they're looking at other areas. And so this article came up around Wainuiomata, saying the headline's not particularly nice. I thought they could have done better, but ready to rise up out of the economic doldrums. And that's where they're talking about how people are looking to buy now further afield, and that there are a lot of positives going in, including a $50 million retirement village going into Wainuiomata, and that will start to change some of the demographics there as people want to purchase homes there as well. Could this be an area to buy an investment property? Quite possibly. So those previous articles were from Stuff. This article is from CEDA, the Central Economic Development Agency, I believe it is, and I apologise if I've got that wrong. And they're talking about how house prices in Manawatu compare with the rest of New Zealand. And thank you, Linda Stewart, the Chief Executive. A couple of infographics here. This is for Palmerston North. The house values have gone up just since November 2017, they say, by 10%. And in the Manawatu district, which is the area around but outside of Palmerston North, 17%. So compared to the increase in New Zealand, the house prices here are rising well. But the thing about that, though, to bear in mind is for a long time they were static while other areas rose. The average rents are going up as well. So you could look at that if you would like a free rental appraisal and you live in the Manawatu, let me know, because you might be undercharging your tenants. They're saying in the year ending November, 6.1% increase in Palmerston North, 2.9 in Manawatu and 4.5 in New Zealand. So links to all of these articles are down below. So what are we going to do about this shortage? Well, there's a number of ideas, but one of them is build to rent. And this is done in countries, United States, countries in Europe. And what it is a group of investors who put money in to a syndicate to build rental properties. And this happens in Britain as well, and that's the example that they use in this article. And considering that 35% of New Zealand households are now rented properties, and we need more, it's really saying in this part, which I'll just highlight, these sort of schemes or programs are common in the US apartment market. It just means as an investor you get a part of a rental portfolio rather than having to purchase an entire property. So it's a good way of people at maybe a lower level getting in on investment, receiving the benefits, and then without too much capital outlay. And it also helps to create new properties. They tend to put people into long-term tenancies overseas in these situations. Just a couple more to go. The alternate route for the Messi Gorge is going to be likely or could affect Messi University, and that's one of the articles there. What is the issue and what do we mean by affect? Well, believe it or not, it's up to 100 hectares of the farmland at Messi, and while they do have a lot, it could create a barrier to the practice or the training area for highland farming, and including a study they've been having going there for 40 years. So there are a few options here, and if you want to see this, it's all in the article, but there's 4 shortlisted options, and one of them is the one south of the gorge, which is very popular because it would create a second bridge across the Manawatu River. People in this area would tell you that that is something that will help with the traffic routes and hubs for transport of goods. And last week I spoke about the Otaki-Levin highway, and that people's homes could be in the foreign line being knocked down, including the former Prime Minister, Geoffrey Palmer. And how did he take that news? He took it very, very well and thought, well, if that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. And he took it in very good spirits. He understands, I guess, the bigger picture. And however, there are consultations coming up, of which we'll hear a bit more. Finally, in the news this week, Real IQ and friend of mine, Dave Faulkner, has published this article, Is 2008 the year the myth finally gets busted? Very interesting reading. Shows the rise of methamphetamine-related cases. It talks about who the people are who have set the latest standard and how there's some controversy around that, and maybe the levels are still too low. So that is some interesting reading. So this is the Week in Real Estate. I hope you've enjoyed it. All the links will be below, and I'd love to hear from you in terms of comments. Thanks for watching.